about the important events of Tuesday. Next, we speak on freedom. This is our time. My name is Mikhail Baranov. Hello. 5 people were killed and 3 more injured as a result of a Russian shelling of the village of Novoplatonovka in the Kharkiv region. According to the State Emergency Service of Ukraine, Russian terrorists deliberately targeted civilians with MLRS who had gathered to receive humanitarian aid. The occupiers also shelled the village of Peskyradkovsky. Fires broke out there in a private residential house and a store. 17 people were killed and 42 wounded as a result of a Russian airstrike on a correctional facility in Zaporizhia region. Russia attacked the facility with 4 Kab bombs, according to the Ministry of Justice of Ukraine. All those injured received medical assistance. The seriously wounded were hospitalized. This strike once again demonstrates the blatant violation of international humanitarian law by the Russian army, the Ministry of Justice emphasized. They reminded that shelling civilian infrastructure, particularly correctional facilities, is considered a war crime. 3 people were killed, including a young woman who was 7 months pregnant. Another 5 civilians were wounded, and more than 15 were injured. These are the consequences of the missile attack on Kamyansk in the Dnipropetrovsk region. The Russian army struck the city hospital grounds with 2 missiles during the night. Natalia Husak will tell us more.
A powerful explosion. Windows shook. I live on the 1st floor. I crawled to the bathroom. And then there was a second explosion.
Everything happened around 2 in the morning, says Libov Don. The woman was quite far from the epicenter of the explosion, but the building shook from the blast wave. Libov has been living in Kamyansk for the past 6 months. She says she moved here from Korakov. I thought at least it would be calmer in the rear.
But we lived in a private house. We took a direct hit. We were left with nothing. We came here 6 months ago, and now we're going through a second war.
The terrorist state Russia struck the city with 2 missiles, attacking the city hospital grounds. 2 buildings were damaged at once. One of them housed the maternity ward. That night, Vadim was there with his wife. Early the previous morning, their son was born.
After the explosion, we ran out between the walls. After the first blast, we ran out and hid between the walls. But the second one hit so hard that everything just blew out. We ran into the shelter when everything quieted down. Then our relatives took us away, and that was it.
At the time of the attack, there were 9 women with newborns in the maternity hospital. The staff responded to the threat in time, the patients say. They were quickly taken to the safest place possible.
When the strike happened, we took all the women who had given birth, along with their babies, to a safe place. The women and babies are alive and well. The maternity ward staff sustained minor injuries. Everyone is okay.
Many in the maternity ward were hit by shrapnel, but none of them needed to be hospitalized. In the neighboring department for pregnancy complications, a young woman who was there for observation was killed. She was only 23 years old, and her unborn child was 7 months along. A patient in the palliative care unit also died at the scene. Later, it was reported that there was 1 more fatality. 5 people were seriously injured, including a pregnant woman in critical condition.
In addition, 2 buildings were damaged.
Besides that, 2 school buildings, a kindergarten, 2 medical buildings, a clinic, and a dermatology and venereal disease dispensary were also damaged. As a result of the attack, about a dozen cars near the hospital were destroyed, and windows were blown out in several dozen apartment buildings.
I came here because my granddaughter's car was smashed. You see, it got hit over there. But the windows there were also blown out, and her hands got cut.
The buildings of 2 hospital wings were damaged so badly that, according to the city council, they will have to be closed for a long time. Now it's necessary to find a place to accommodate the patients from the medical facilities. There were about 100 of them here. Natalia Gusak, Volodymyr Stangelov from Dnipropetrovsk region for Freedom TV channel.
4 rescuers were killed at the start of the day as a result of Russian shelling in 2 regions of Ukraine. In Kostiantynivka, Donetsk region, an enemy drone attacked a fire crew during the evacuation of civilians from a backup area. And in Kherson, an FPV drone hit a truck belonging to one of the rescue units. As noted by the State Emergency Service of Ukraine, the Russians are deliberately targeting those who save people every day. In total, on the night leading into Tuesday, Russia launched 2 Iskander-M ballistic missiles and 37 drones of various types at Ukraine. Ukrainian air defenders neutralized 32 drones in the north and east of the country. According to the Ukrainian Air Force, the Russian attack was repelled by aviation, anti-aircraft missile troops, electronic warfare, and drone units, as well as mobile fire teams.
Well,
Victory.
you can't go.
In just one day, the Russian army killed 22 people in Ukraine. Another 85 civilians were wounded. This was reported by President Volodymyr Zelensky. He emphasized that 73 Ukrainian settlements came under Russian attack, and noted that all of this happened after the United States made its position absolutely clear: Russia must end the war and move to diplomacy.
Every killing of our people by the Russians, every Russian strike when a ceasefire could have long been in place if Russia hadn't refused, all of this shows that Moscow deserves very tough, truly painful, and therefore fair and effective sanctions pressure. They must be forced to stop the killings and make peace. I thank everyone who is helping with this. Ukraine, President Trump's efforts, his determination to achieve peace. We thank all the leaders who are helping to defend Ukraine and Russia. Peace is possible, but only when Russia stops the war it started itself and stops tormenting people. Volodymyr Zelensky, Ukraine in Telegram.
Kiev confirmed a strike on Russian logistics in the city of Salsk in the Rostov region. A major railway junction was attacked there, said the head of countering disinformation at the National Council. Security and Defense of Ukraine Andriy Kovalenko. According to him, the railway is the artery of war, and without it, the actions of the Russian army at the front are slowed down. At night, both the railway and the Russian resource base in the city of Salsk were attacked. A key logistics hub is located there. Fuel, ammunition, and equipment pass through it to the front in Donetsk region, toward temporarily occupied Crimea and Zaporizhia. Andriy Kovalenko, head of the Center for Countering Disinformation at the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, on Telegram. Let me remind you, last night drones attacked the city of Salsk in Russia's Rostov region. Russian railways reported that the main strike hit a freight train. The head of the Salsk district stated that 2 tank cars and a locomotive were hit. The railway station has suspended operations. More than 1,051,000 soldiers, the size of the Russian army since the start of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. According to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, just in the past day, the defense forces eliminated over 1,000 Russian occupiers. In addition, yesterday 4 tanks, nearly 40 artillery systems, a multiple rocket launcher system, and an air defense system were also destroyed. Ukrainian defenders also burned almost 100 Russian vehicles and 200 drones. 172 combat engagements were recorded on the front line in the past day. According to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the situation remains tense in the Pokrovsk direction. There, the Russian army carried out 57 assault actions. Ukrainian soldiers repelled another 32 Russian attacks in the Lyman sector, nearly 20 assaults in the Novopavlivka direction, and 10 more each in the Toretsk, North Slobozansk, and Kursk sectors of the front. As military experts note, in the Sumy region, the Ukrainian armed forces have not only stopped the enemy's advance but are already pushing them back. At the same time, the Russians are suffering huge losses.
It has indeed been verified, and the Russians themselves have confirmed, that the Russian Federation had to withdraw from at least 2 villages in the Sumy region that had previously been captured. We understand that there is practically nothing left of them there. The Ukrainian army continues to press Russian forces precisely in this direction. Once again, the Russian side itself confirms the heavy losses. It's not because we're looking at things through rose-colored glasses or talking about it in marathon mode. No. The Russians are confirming a large number of losses.
And now we move on to the topic of the Kremlin's deadline regarding the end of the war. This is currently being actively discussed in Ukraine, Russia, and the United States. Putin seriously miscalculated when it comes to Donald Trump, said Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, commenting on the updated position of the President of the United States. Graham fully shares the president's disappointment with Moscow's recent actions, which confirm that Russia has no real desire to sit down at the negotiating table and end the war against Ukraine.
I hope that countries like China, India, and Brazil, which are supporting Putin's war machine, will soon pay the long overdue price for it. Congress, by an overwhelming majority, is ready to support President Trump in his efforts to bring the parties to the peace negotiation table. Lindsey Graham, Republican Senator, on social network X.
Russia is seeking to destroy Ukraine, disguising the war as, so to speak, the protection of its own interests. This was stated by the head of the office of the President of Ukraine, Andriy Yermak. He emphasized that, in reality, the Russian Federation continues to promote a strategy of destroying Ukraine as a state, because that is Russia's only real interest.
Such brazenness is only possible because Russia receives direct assistance from North Korea and Iran, and also circumvents sanctions with the help of other countries from the global south. Usually, a terrorist with a broken face speaks differently. Today, Russia is challenging not only Ukraine and Europe, but also the United States. Putin's regime is incapable of stopping the war. This is only possible through force, by breaking the face of the dictatorship. Andriy Yermak, head of the office of the President of Ukraine, on Telegram.
The Kremlin has already responded to the new deadline, Trump's deadline. The notorious deputy chairman of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, Dmitry Medvedev, stated that the president is allegedly bringing the war with Russia closer. He claims that every ultimatum is a threat and a step toward military action. Medvedev also urged the head of the White House not to follow in Joe Biden's footsteps, apparently referring to military support for Ukraine. In addition, Putin's press secretary Dmitry Peskov added that the Kremlin has supposedly taken note of Trump's position, but will continue the special military operation. This is exactly how the Russian Federation refers to the war against Ukraine, which, according to the Russian Foreign Ministry, Russia is waging alone. Despite proven military cooperation with Iran, North Korea, and China, Sergei Lavrov insists for the first time that Moscow has been left without allies on the battlefield. After the announcement of Trump's new policy, it is unlikely that Putin will make any concessions. This is what they are saying at the American Institute for the Study of War. Their analysts note that after the words of the U.S. president, old narratives once again came out of Moscow, that NATO should not expand, and that the West should recognize the annexation of Ukrainian territories. The Institute notes that such statements are a signal that the Kremlin is not abandoning its military objectives and continues to actively promote this position within the country, especially among the youth, in order to maintain ideological support for the war. Ukraine remains committed to peace and will tirelessly work with the United States to make both countries safer. This is how Volodymyr Zelensky responded to Donald Trump's decision to shorten the deadline he gave Putin to end the war. The president of Ukraine noted that the clear stance and expressed determination of the American leader are more timely than ever. After all, right now, much can be changed through strength. Zelensky also thanked Trump for his focus on saving lives and stopping the war.
Ukraine keeps its promises. There is an extremely significant statement from President Trump. And that's true. It is Russia, in fact, that is doing everything to derail peace efforts and prolong this war. Every night there are strikes, constant Russian attempts to inflict pain on Ukraine. Indeed, peace is possible if we act strongly and decisively. And we have repeatedly said, and all our partners know this, that sanctions are a key factor. Russia takes sanctions into account, it considers such losses. Peace is possible thanks to strength.